Many of South Africa's most famous artists of the previous century either lived in the Cape or visited the Cape regularly. The most dominant and important artist in the Cape in the previous century was most probably Irma Stern. We have two very interesting paintings by Irma Stern on the exhibition. The first, painted in 1930, is called Still Life with an African Pot, and it reflects and captures very beautifully a little bundle of fish, which are normally called bokkums, I think, in the Cape, tied together with a string on a plate, about to be served with a lovely piece of lemon with it, and a beautiful African pot in the background. A very traditional Cape meal that is depicted there, and it's painted with a lot of heavy brush strokes, and really a lovely painting to behold, and it's sort of quite unusual in her oeuvre. There's also a painting that she painted several years later in the 1940s of a lady that worked for her, one of her assistants in the house, and this lady particularly, she was called Women in the Kitchen. Irma Stern tells a story that this lady did not like sitting for her at all. She kept on complaining that she had a lot of work to do and that Irma was really wasting her time by making her sit for hours at end to pose for this picture. And one can see some of that in that picture, where the lady looks quite grumpy about being put in this position by Irma. Irma was larger than life, and I don't think she was too bothered about it, but what she does do is she very accurately captures this disdain at which the lady is looking at her, and with how little importance she regards this whole event. So I think a lovely work and beautifully executed in great detail by Irma. We're also very fortunate to have two works here that was done by Pierneef. The first one, if you come in entrance on the left, he captures the Elim mission station. It's a beautiful pink work, very soft, typical sort of Cape winter's day with the green, where the grass is green, and he captures that mission station very, very eloquently, very simplistically, and you can see the clouds in the winter as building up rain to come. We have included a work by Gwelo Goodman, Dawn on Table Mountain, which was painted in approximately 1913 to 1914, before the cable car was erected, and it captures this beautiful monumental Table Mountain in the early morning light. It's a very evocative painting, and because Table Mountain is such an important symbol of the Cape, it's instantly recognizable all over the world. This work is special because it also gives us an indication of what the suburb of Gardens and Hirgevale looked like at that point in time. Obviously a lot less populated than today. It is juxtaposed by this amazing work by Gerard Sekoto that he painted during his stay in District 6. He stayed there for approximately 4 years. This work, called Street Musician in District 6, captures life in District 6 beautifully, and it's of course very nostalgic because District 6 was demolished in the late 1960s, early 1970s by the apartheid government. So paintings like these and photographs like these are only memories we have of a whole very vibrant suburb. One can see that the person is in difficult circumstances. There's an injury to the foot, to his foot, but there's still a sense of joy in this painting. Why this painting is also important is that Gerard Sekoto was the first black artist that was formally adopted in the South African art scene. He was the first black artist to be collected by a major institution when the National Gallery bought Gerard Sekoto. And incidentally, he was also the key person that inspired Peter Clark, who is one of the featured artists on the exhibition, to start his career as a full-time artist. I'm always fascinated by the way in which various artists captured the Cape landscape. We were talking earlier about Table Mountain and the beautiful painting by Gwelo Goodman. Here we'll see a very fresh, lovely painting by Ruth Browser, capturing the view over the bay towards Table Mountain, and she's doing it from Robben Island, the perspective that she's giving. And it's also in winter, one can see it's very green, all the arum lilies are blooming, and it's a very beautiful, evocative painting. And what is so interesting about it is that it was painted in 1910 already. Behind it are two very interesting and quite varied landscapes. The one on the left-hand side was painted by Pierneef in 1950, and it's called Koringlande Agter Parel. It's a beautiful soft painting capturing that late spring moments when the wheat is ready for harvesting. It's done in a lovely yellow and some geometric patterns coming through. And what is quite interesting is if you look at the painting close by, it looks very much like a cassine that is used the technique, but it's actually a oil painting, but it's beautifully and very gently done. The very gentle depiction of a Cape landscape by Pierneef contrasts very strongly with the flamboyant painting by Eric Laubscher of Buffelsrivier, Keerfontein in the Cape. It's a very dramatic rendering, accentuating the power of the mountains and the sky. Very dramatic, showing a gorge, a piece of land cut out by a river over centuries. Really very evocative, very strong use of color, and all round a beautiful painting, I think. Right next to it we have a small painting by Johannes Meintjes. It was also very important in the context of Welgemeend. He studied went to school at Jan van Riebeeck High School, on which grounds this beautiful building is situated, and he was quite influential in that he taught Peter Clark at one point in time. We have Eleanor Esmond White, was also a very important and well-known painter in the Cape, and we have a beautiful landscape of people, a group of women and children at the beach sitting together talking. She almost exclusively portrayed women in her works, and this is a very beautiful green example, and it contrasts lovely with Francois Krieger, another very well-known Cape-based artist that had his studio in Montetjie. His depiction and portrait of old Christian, a figure that he painted regularly. One cannot really talk about Cape modernist without talking about Grégoire Boonsire. He was born and bred in the Cape, spent his entire life here, did travel internationally, and had a very interesting role that he played in the Cape artistic community. He was a co-founder of the new group with Lippie Lipschitz and Cecil Hicks and some of the other artists that's on display here. And Grégoire played a very important role in organizing events on behalf of a number of artists. His father was the cartoonist D.C. Boonsire, and they were already very well known in the Cape artistic circles. His father was also responsible for bringing Pieter Wenning, who was then a Pretoria-based artist, to the Cape. This painting that was done in 1969 is a very large-scale rendering of the Boerkaap. One can see the people going about their daily lives, but what for me is so beautiful in this work is the way in which Grégoire captures the dilapidated and somewhat crumbling buildings in that area so beautifully. One gets a sense of lived-in buildings. We get a sense of something that is really fighting to stand the test of time. And in fact, what happened, just like District 6, is that many of these buildings were subsequently demolished. So Grégoire, in these paintings, give us a glimpse of what the Cape looked like and living in the Cape was like at that point in time.